Okay.
Good afternoon, y'all. Thanks for coming. New committee members, welcome to Code Revision. Appreciate y'all being here. We have a few things on the agenda today. We are going to look at HB 180 that we have worked on for several years. It got hung up at the literal last 10 minutes of the session last year. The Senate tried to add something on. Bills that come through code revision are fairly large targets because they carry lots of code section, right? But we try to protect those so they don't end up changing any policy where they are truly a code type revision bill. Excited about HB 180. It is a repeal package. But before we get on to that, we actually need to pass our Code Vision committee rules. So they should be in your folder. They are unchanged from last year. So I'll give you all a second to look over those, and then we will need to, I'll need to entertain a motion to pass those. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I see here there are 22 members of the committee,
Yes, ma'am.
and the quorum is 4 members. That has us at like less than like 15%. I'm hoping we can be at like 25% of the committee, or 22%, which would be 6 members. So I hope that we can change that quorum to be 6 members.
We do have a problem getting folks here at most of the time, but do you have a motion that you'd like to make? This is the proper time we can amend.
Oh, great. I move that we amend the quorum of the committee from 4 members to 6 members.
Discussion?
Around what time did they get here?
Sir,
I'm sorry, I apologize. Man.
do you have a question? Yes.
Around what time do members generally get here? Do they, I know we just got released out of this, type of session.
That's for each member to decide on their own schedule.
Okay.
Well, I think
right.
maybe as much as we can, call the meetings in advance. I know that I didn't get this notice until yesterday morning. And so if it's possible for members to maybe be more aware, I know that things are very busy, but it might be more
not per
useful
his rules
for
from
people
last
to
year.
attend
We're
and share
operating
some
under
of
these
this
rules from last year.
They're not in effect right now.
Gotcha.
Wait, I know that's not.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to push pause here for 1 second. Let's take a 5-minute recess.
For Robert's Rules of Order, wouldn't it just, don't they still fill the gap?
No, that's why you have to adopt them every year. So initially,
I never knew that. Well, so you can't even adopt them right now.
you actually can't take any action.
So we need
No, you need 12 people. Sorry.
that's a good point. Thank you.
What if I ask really nicely?
I mean, it's up to you.
No,
I
yeah.
mean, that's,
No.
if you want to, unless somebody challenges it, you can do it.
I mean, they're challenging it, so.
But I mean, well, they're not challenging that as yours.
Yeah. So people that said ex officio, that'd be the whip, majority leader, and
Still not enough.
8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Explain what's going on now.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call another meeting.
I'm just telling you to explain that that's why.
Okay, we have run into an interesting dilemma here. to actually adopt our rules, we have to have a majority of our committee here, which would be 12 people. Obviously, we don't have 12 people. So we are going to take a 5-minute recess and see if we can get some more folks here.
Well, I know it looks like a bunch of y'all's members are in judiciary, and we've got a full judiciary meeting starting like now. So that could be
There's
where a bunch
one.
of people are. Let me see if I can. Okay.
We're going to take 5 minutes.
Give me 1 second. 'Cause that's my other committee. And
Okay.
I can put them here.
It's a house rule. It's a house. That's what
don't have committee rules right now. So we have to, in order to adopt them, we have to have a majority. And we say, yes, we'll waive our majority requirement. Makes sense. All right, who we got? If you're nice, I'll get you a sandwich.
All right, welcome again to the Code Revision Committee meeting. I appreciate y'all coming in and filling in. So we will start again because we officially could not start before we had the rules, and we needed a majority. We do have a majority now. So the first thing on our docket will be to look at our rules, and we have had them unchanged from last year.
To do pass and all again, just to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah. We're starting from square one.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so we're doing the rules. There was some discussion earlier on the rules to change from 4 members to 5, and I will entertain that motion now.
Yes, I move that we
Wait, you
change
can't-
the rules
hold
for
on.
the quorum.
You gotta
from
restart.
maybe
Somebody's
to
got a
not
motion
4
to do
members,
pass
but to
first,
be
and
5
then
members.
That's
change
right.
it.
Procedurally, I think I'm out of order here. Let me entertain a motion.
Move to pass on the rules.
Thank you. Second. Further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we amend it to make the quorum for the committee to be 5 members instead of 4, to be at 24% for the committee.
Do you hear a second?
Is there a second?
Hearing none.
All right, we have a motion on the table to change the rules from 4 members to 5 for a quorum. All in favor, aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passed.
Motion fails. Would you like a hand count? Hand count on the previous vote?
Is that a motion for a hand count?
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
We always take it, right?
Yes, you take it
Yeah.
immediately now.
Okay.
Say aye.
Those in favor of moving the quorum from 4 to 5 members? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? Motion fails. The motion we have on is the adoption of the rules. All in favor, aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. All right. Now we are on to the agenda. If members need to leave for other committee meetings, we definitely understand, but thank you so much for allowing us to move forward. All right, we have the Code Revision Bill, Senate Bill 52. Senator Calzert, would you present that for us, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here on behalf of Senator William Ligon, who had to go home yesterday. His mother's having a medical procedure, so I've been asked to present this for him. It's the annual code revision bill, and it literally changes punctuation, grammar, terminology, and sometimes there's an occasional misnomer of a section of the code. And I'm just going to hit a couple of them to give you examples. I don't think you want to be bored with it all the way through. But for example, on line 23, there was a change with on dash line to on line instead of taking the hyphen out, basically. The next change was it said provided, however, in no event, and that's changed to say provided, however, that in no event. These type of things are just grammatical changes and to conform with the other references in the law of the type of language that we use. Over on page 3, for example, lines 59 and 60, there was a change from obedience to its subpoena to obedience to the subpoena. I mean, those are the type of changes that are to keep the law consistent throughout the code section. And I was on our Judiciary Committee that saw this bill through and passed it out, and there was just no substantive changes whatsoever in the law. So these are all grammatical errors, hyphens, literally changing commas to semicolons, those type of things. The other thing that the bill does, if you go a little deeper in it on page 18, Section 54. We do this every year, and what we are making amendments to the official code of Georgia. This Section 54 reenacts the official code of Georgia, annotated, and authorizes the republication by the Mickey Company, however they pronounce that. That's something that has to be done annually and makes it clear that any changes of our law that are enacted in 2019 will supersede these provisions that are currently in the law. Mr. Chairman, that's really all that's involved in this bill. I'm happy to take any questions that any committee members may have.
Thank you, sir. And to the new committee members, that's what the commission does during the off season, is they look for these very small errors, and it does not affect our policies in any way. Any questions for the presenter? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody have a great weekend.
Senator, do you know who may be carrying this in the House?
I do not.
Okay.
Your pleasure would be fine, or I
Okay,
can.
very good. I think
check
we
with
just
Ligon.
appointed some folks to the commission, and we'll approach those guys. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to House Bill 180. And my vice chair will step down and present this. No, good. You're fine right here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 180 is a do-over. This came through our committee last year as well. At sine die at midnight when we shut down, I got to be the guy standing in the well waiting. So we got this out of here just like it looks today. There is one change that we've made, and that was in conjunction for the Child Care Council in Section 5. We found a couple of references that were inaccurate that we added in as well, that would be inaccurate as we repeal this council. So to give you a feel for what this is work from Chairman Welch over the last several years, going through with each department and agency, finding old councils, commissions that either have been repealed already, but we've got code sections left over, or aren't meeting or aren't funded, just don't belong in the code any longer. We have gone in this committee through each of these councils. I'm more than happy to do it again if we need to. So if there are any, I know we have several new members on the committee. If you'd like to go through any individual ones, I'm more than happy to. If you'd like, I'll list out which ones we're repealing to make sure nothing scares you. But to give you a feel, some of these are really fun, like the Pacific White Shrimp Aquaculture Development Advisory Council. If you notice nothing else from that, notice that it's the wrong ocean. We've got some really fun ones in here. So that is the entire that one, for example, was repealed back in 2008. But we've got a whole lot of code section left over from that repeal. I referenced the Child Care Council earlier as well. That's been an inactive council, so it really no longer exists, but the code section still exists. So what we're doing is a lot like what we just saw, except that unlike what we just saw, which is all grammatical fixes, we are actually taking policy pieces out of the code. They're just not policy pieces that actually reign any longer. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through in more detail or whatever.
Sure.
The committee's pleasure.
All right, Representative McLeod.
Yes. What
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the creation of the Heritage Trust Commission?
You're referencing Section 4, I
Yes.
believe? Okay. So the Heritage Trust Commission, we are not creating, but we are rather repealing. So everything in this bill will be repealing. That was actually dissolved by its original legislation in 1988. So when they established it, it self-repealed in 88, but all the code sections still remains. So
You know what it was about?
I have notes on what it was about, but it has been almost more than 3 decades now since it has actually done or operated or been in existence. So it is by law already repealed. All we're doing is removing the leftover text. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even if we were to determine we wanted to fund it tomorrow, we would still need an act to actually create the commission because it's self-repealed.
All right, very good. Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion.
You pass by substitute.
Okay. So we have a substitute.
You pass by substitute.
Thank you, sir. Second. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome. Very good.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
committee members. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.